My husband made me sleep outside in the snow so his sick best friend could have our hotel room, but he doesn't know that he was about to lose everything back home. Jake woke me up at 2 a.m. in our Colorado hotel room saying his best friend Tyler was having some kind of medical emergency and needed to lie down immediately. Tyler was supposed to be back in Portland, but apparently drove 6 hours through a snowstorm because he felt too sick to be alone. My husband was already helping Tyler through the door, his arm around Tyler's shoulders like Tyler could barely walk. I sat up in bed confused and half asleep. Jake said Tyler needed the room, needed to rest somewhere quiet, and could I please just go sleep in the car for a few hours until Tyler felt better. I stared at him. It was 19 degrees outside. There was 3 inches of fresh snow in the parking lot, but Jake kept insisting Tyler was really sick, that he might need to go to the hospital, that I'd understand if I wasn't being so difficult about everything. Tyler stood there looking pale but not saying much, just leaning against the wall and avoiding eye contact with me. Something about the whole situation felt wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint what exactly. So I grabbed my coat and went outside to the car. I turned it on for heat and sat there in the running vehicle, watching snowfall in the parking lot light. And I pulled out my phone and made a call I'd been planning to make anyway, just not at 2 a.m., in a hotel parking lot in Colorado. My lawyer Diane answered on the third ring sounding groggy. I told her to file everything first thing Monday morning, all of it. The divorce papers, the fraud complaint with his company, the documentation I'd found in his home office. She asked if I was sure about the timing, and I said I'd never been more sure about anything. 3 weeks earlier, I'd been looking for our insurance documents in Jake's desk when I found the bank statements. Statements for an account I didn't know existed, showing monthly transfers of $3,000 for the past 8 months to someone named Tyler Morrison. The same Tyler who was supposedly too sick to drive, but had somehow made it 6 hours through a snowstorm to our exact hotel. I'd hired a private investigator after finding those statements. She'd worked fast. The photos came back within a week. Jake and Tyler having dinner at restaurants across town. Jake and Tyler going into an apartment together on Wednesday afternoons when Jake was supposed to be at the office. Jake and Tyler shopping for furniture at stores I'd never been to. The investigator found the lease agreement too. An apartment rented under both their names starting 8 months ago, right around the time those $3,000 transfers began. I sat in that cold parking lot reading through the investigator's final report on my phone. The photos were time-stamped and geotagged, completely undeniable. I'd known for 2 weeks before this Colorado trip that my husband was living a double life, but I'd pretended everything was normal. I'd packed for this trip. I'd smiled and made small talk during the 6-hour drive. I'd had dinner with him at the steakhouse across from the hotel and listened to him talk about his day. And the whole time I was calculating, figuring out exactly how to handle this so he'd lose everything he'd been hiding. His job had strict ethics policies. The fraud wasn't just personal, it was professional. He'd been using company resources for personal expenses, claiming business trips that were actually romantic getaways, falsifying expense reports. I documented all of it. Diane said we had enough evidence to bury him in court and get him fired, but we needed to wait until after this trip, until after he thought he was safe. I checked the time. It was 2:47 a.m. In 6 hours, the banks would open. In 8 hours, Diane would walk into his company's HR department with a folder of evidence. In 9 hours, his boss would see the expense reports I'd flagged, the falsified mileage, the hotel rooms booked for business conferences that didn't exist, the company credit card charges at restaurants and stores near that apartment. I'd been waiting for the right moment to file everything, and Jake had just given it to me by making me sleep outside in the snow while he and Tyler took over the room I'd paid half for. I texted Diane again confirming Monday morning. Then I texted my brother asking if I could stay with him when I got back. He responded immediately, despite the early hour, saying his guest room was ready whenever I needed it. Jake came out to the car around 5 a.m., looking sheepish. He tapped on the window and I rolled it down. He said Tyler was feeling better and I could come back inside now. He actually expected me to thank him. It's to just go back to pretending everything was normal. I looked at my husband standing in the snow, and I realized he had no idea. No idea that our joint bank account would be frozen by noon Monday. No idea that his company email would be deactivated by 2 p.m. No idea that by Tuesday he'd be sitting across from HR explaining why he'd committed fraud. No idea that the apartment lease he thought was secret had already been provided to my divorce attorney. But what I discovered when I walked back into that hotel room made me realize I'd only been seeing half of what was really happening. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I pushed the door open slowly, my heart still racing from the revelation. The hotel room is dim, just a single bedside lamp casting shadows across the walls. Tyler is sitting on the edge of the bed, his phone clutched in his hand. He looks up, startled, like he wasn't expecting me to return. "Oh, you're back," he says, his voice tight. His eyes dart away from mine immediately, focusing on the carpet, the wall, anywhere but my face. "Where's Jake?" I ask, scanning the room. My husband is nowhere to be seen. Tyler gestures vaguely toward the bathroom door. "Shower's running. Jake, he went out. For supplies." He holds up a folded piece of paper. "Left a note." I take the note from his outstretched hand. Jake's handwriting is hurried, almost illegible. "Gone for supplies. Back soon." The paper trembles in my hand. "Supplies?" I repeat. "At 5 in the morning?" Tyler shrugs, his eyes still avoiding mine. "Said he needed to get some medicine. For me." He forces a weak cough that sounds painfully fake. "Since I'm sick and all." I notice Tyler checking his phone again, thumbs moving rapidly over the screen before he shoves it into his pocket. The bathroom door remains closed, steam seeping out from underneath it. The shower has been running for a long time. "You seem better," I say flatly. "Miraculous recovery after making me sleep in the car all night." Tyler's face flushes. "Look, I'm sorry about that. I didn't. Jake thought it would be best if..." I walk to the closet where my suitcase sits open on the luggage rack. As I reach for my toiletry bag, something catches my eye, a flash of pink fabric that doesn't belong to me. I pull it out slightly, revealing a woman's blouse. Beneath it is a pair of jeans, size 4. I've never worn a size 4 inches my life. "What is this?" I ask, holding up the blouse. Tyler jumps to his feet, panic flashing across his face. "That's I can explain." The bathroom door opens with a rush of steam. A woman steps out wrapped in one of the hotel's white towels, her blonde hair wet and slicked back. She's petite, pretty in a conventional way, with delicate features and clear blue eyes that widen when she sees me. "Oh," she exclaims, clutching the towel tighter. I didn't realize anyone else was here. She looks at Tyler, confusion evident on her face. Tyler's gone pale. Melissa, he says, his voice barely audible. Jake wasn't supposed to leave. The woman Melissa looks between us. I'm sorry, who are you? She asks me. I'm Jake's wife, I reply, my voice surprisingly steady despite the chaos erupting inside me. This is our hotel room. Melissa's expression shifts from confusion to shock. Wife, but Tyler said. She stops, turning to Tyler. You told me Jake was your roommate, that he was letting us use his reservation because ours got messed up. Tyler, I say, my voice hardening. Who is this? Tyler looks like he might be sick for real this time. This is Melissa, he says, swallowing hard. She's my fiancé. The word hits me like a physical blow. Fiancé. Not just some random woman. Not just an affair. A fiancé. Your fiancé, I repeat. So you've been engaged to Melissa while sleeping with my husband? Melissa drops onto the edge of the bed, the towel slipping slightly. Sleeping with what? Her voice cracks. Tyler, what is she talking about? Tyler's phone buzzes in his pocket. He pulls it out, glances at the screen, and his face contorts with panic. Jake says he's not coming back for a while. That we should tell you everything. I pull out my own phone and dial Jake's number. It rings 4 times before going to voicemail. I try again. Straight to voicemail this time. He's not answering, I say, a cold calm settling over me. Of course he's not. Melissa has started crying silently, tears tracking down her flushed cheeks. We've been engaged for 8 months, she says, looking at Tyler. 8 months, Tyler. You said you were working all those nights. You said the business trips were mandatory. 8 months. The exact time frame of the bank transfers I'd found. The exact time frame of the apartment lease. Everything aligning perfectly into a picture of betrayal so complete, it's almost impressive. I try Jake's number again. Straight to voicemail. Again. Straight to voicemail. He's running, I say, more to myself than to them. He knows I found out. Tyler shakes his head frantically. No, he just went for supplies. He'll be back. Stop lying, I snap. You're terrible at it. Always have been. Melissa stands up, clutching her towel like a shield. I need to get dressed, she says, her voice small. I need to understand what's happening. As she gathers her clothes from the suitcase, I notice the designer label. Expensive taste. I wonder if my $3,000 monthly payments helped pay for that blouse. I try Jake's number one more time. Voicemail again. When did Jake leave? I ask Tyler. About an hour ago, he admits. Right after you went back to the car. And it was bae. I'm in at one tection. The timeline clicks into place. Jake made me leave at 2 a.m. I called Diane around 2:15. I sat in the car until 5 a.m. when Jake came to get me. He didn't come to get me because Tyler was feeling better. He came to get me because Melissa had arrived and he needed to escape. My phone buzzes with a text from Diane. All set for Monday. First thing. I look up at Tyler and Melissa, these strangers in my hotel room whose lives are tangled with mine in ways I never could have imagined. In less than 48 hours, everything they think they know will collapse around them, just like it has for me. We need to talk, I tell them, all of us, because Monday morning is coming, and none of you are ready for what happens next. The silence in the hotel room is suffocating. Melissa sits on the edge of the bed, now fully dressed, scrolling through her phone with trembling hands. She turns the screen toward me, her eyes red-rimmed. Look, she says, her voice cracking. These are our engagement photos from 8 months ago. Why didn't anyone tied it? I take the phone, my stomach clenching as I swipe through the images. Tyler and Melissa standing in a sunlit park, her left hand prominently displaying a princess-cut diamond ring. Tyler kissing her cheek as she beams at the camera. The date stamp in the corner, exactly 8 months ago, right when the mysterious transfers to Tyler Morrison began. I don't understand, Melissa says, taking the phone back. Tyler, tell me what's going on, now. Tyler sinks into the desk chair, head in his hands. It started at the company retreat. It's on, he mumbles. Jake and I were assigned to the same cabin. We got drunk one night and he trails off, unable to finish. And you've been sleeping with him for 8 months? Melissa's voice rises. While planning our wedding? Maxness. Tyler nods miserably. Jake said he was going to leave her. He promised. The words hit me like a physical blow. Leave me. For Tyler. All those late nights at the office, the weekend emergencies, the business trips that seemed to multiply over the past year. It wasn't just work. It was Tyler. I need to talk to the front desk, I say, grabbing my purse. Neither of them tries to stop me as I walk out. At the reception desk, a tired-looking woman named Cheryl checks her computer when I ask about the room booking. Yes, the reservation is under Tyler and Melissa Morrison, she confirms, turning the screen slightly so I can see. Checked in yesterday afternoon, 2-night stay. And was there another room booked under Jake? And I give her my name. Her fingers tap at the keyboard. Yes, there was. Room 412. But according to our system, you never checked in. She frowns. There's a charge on your credit card, though. A charge for a room we never used. I say flatly. I can look into that for you, she offers. But I shake my head. No need. I'll be disputing it with my credit card company, along with a lot of other charges, I think grimly. As I turn to leave, Cheryl calls after me. Oh, if you're looking for your husband, he left several hours ago, with luggage. I freeze. How do you know that? I was on the early shift. Saw him loading suitcases into a car around 5:30 this morning. I remember because he seemed in such a hurry. My phone buzzes with a text from Diane. Everything's ready for Monday filing. Fraud documentation complete. Call me when you can. I thank Cheryl and ask one more question. Is there any way to check your security footage to confirm what time my husband left? 20 minutes later, I'm staring at grainy security footage showing Jake wheeling 2 large suitcases through the lobby at 5:22 a.m. My suitcases, he stops at the front desk, hands over what appears to be a credit card, then continues outside to where a taxi is waiting. Can I get a copy of this? I ask the security manager. We'll need a police report or court order, he replies apologetically. I nod. You'll have one by Monday. Back in the room, Tyler and Melissa are sitting on opposite sides of the bed, the space between them, a physical manifestation of their fractured relationship. Jake's gone, I announce. Left hours ago with our luggage. Tyler looks up, panic in his eyes. He wouldn't just leave. He promised we'd figure this out together. I laugh, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Check your bank accounts. I tell them both. Right now. Melissa frowns but pulls out her phone. Tyler does the same, his hands shaking so badly he drops his phone twice before managing to log in. While they check, I open my banking app. The joint savings account Jake and I maintained for our future for the house renovations we'd planned. For the children we'd talked about having shows a balance of $42.16. Yesterday, it held just over $68,000. He emptied our savings this morning, I say, turning the screen toward them. At 4:47 a.m., Tyler's face goes ashen. He said he was just moving money around for the apartment lease. For us. What apartment? Melissa asks, her voice dangerously quiet. Tyler swallows hard. Jake rented us an apartment in Portland for after he left her. He can't even look at me me when he says it. When exactly was he planning to leave me? I ask, surprised by how calm I sound. After the Colorado project wrapped up, Tyler admits. He said it would be easier once he got his bonus, that we could start fresh. Melissa stands up suddenly. I can't believe this. 8 months, Tyler. 8 months of lies. She grabs her purse. I'm going home, don't follow me. As she reaches the door, my phone buzzes with an incoming text. It's from Jake, finally responding after hours of silence. I'm boarding a flight to Portland. Don't try to find me. It's over. I show the message to Tyler, whose face crumples. He said we'd go together. He whispers. He promised. Seems like Jake makes a lot of promises, I say, looking between him and Melissa. To everyone. Melissa leans against the doorframe, tears streaming down her face. Did you love him? She asks Tyler, her voice barely audible. Was any of it real with me? Tyler opens his mouth, closes it, then finally speaks. I don't know anymore. I thought I could have both. My phone buzzes again with another text from Jake. I've transferred enough money for you to get home. The rest is what I deserve for putting up with you for 5 years. The rage that floods through me is clarifying, washing away the shock and hurt. I turn to Melissa, who's still frozen in the doorway. I'm flying back to Portland today, I tell her, to deal with my soon-to-be ex-husband. If you want the truth about what's been happening with your fiancé, I suggest you come with me. Tyler jumps up. You can't do that, Jake said. Jake's not here. I cut him off. And neither of you knows what I found out yesterday. What my lawyer is filing on Monday morning. I look at my watch. We have exactly 36 hours before everything changes for all of us. Melissa wipes her tears with the back of her hand. I want to know everything, she says, straightening her shoulders. Every last detail. Tyler sinks back into the chair, defeat written across his face. He said he loved me, he mumbles, more to himself than to us. He promised we'd be together. 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 He mumbles to be house. Well, I say, already dialing the airline on my phone. Let's go find out exactly what Jake's promises are worth. I call the airline as soon as I walk out of the hotel room, my hands trembling as I book the next flight to Portland. The earliest one leaves in 2 hours, barely enough time to get to the airport, but I'll make it work. I have to. Are you coming? I ask Melissa, who's still standing in the doorway, her face pale and drawn. She hesitates for just a moment before nodding. Yes, I need to know everything. Tyler jumps up from the chair. You can't just leave me here, he protests, panic rising in his voice. Jake will come back. He has to. I turn to him, a cold calm settling over me. Jake emptied our joint account this morning. He took my luggage. He's texting about boarding a flight to Portland. He's not coming back for you, Tyler. The truth hits him like a physical blow. He sinks back into the chair, his shoulders slumping in defeat. What am I supposed to do? Figure it out, I say, already walking toward the elevator with Melissa following close behind. The drive to the airport is tense and silent. Melissa stares out the window, occasionally wiping tears from her cheeks. I focus on the road, my mind racing through everything I need to do once we land. My phone buzzes with a text from Diane. Just got a fraud alert from the bank. Jake tried using your joint credit card for a first-class ticket. Card's frozen now. I allow myself a small, grim smile. The net is closing. When we arrive at the airport, I head straight for the airline desk. I need to check if Jacob Wilson has boarded a flight to Portland yet, I tell the agent, trying to keep my voice steady. She taps at her keyboard, frowning slightly. I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't provide that information about another passenger. I'm about to argue when a commotion near the security checkpoint catches my attention. 2 TSA officers are escorting someone to a side room, someone who looks exactly like Jake. That's him, I whisper to Melissa, who follows my gaze. What's happening? She asks. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. I approach a uniformed airport security officer standing nearby. Excuse me, that man being detained, that's my husband. Can you tell me what's going on? The officer gives me a measured look. Are you Mrs. Wilson? Yes, I say, pulling out my ID. What's happening? He studies my license for a moment. Your husband triggered several security alerts when attempting to board. Suspicious banking activity, multiple credit cards declined, large cash amounts. We're holding him for questioning. Can I speak with him? I ask. The officer hesitates, then nods. Follow me, but just you, he adds, looking at Melissa. I'll wait here, she says quietly. The security office is small and brightly lit. Jake sits at a metal table, his face contorted with anger and panic. When he sees me, his expression morphs into something calculated, the mask I now realize he's been wearing for months, maybe years. Thank God you're here, he says loudly, standing up. Tell them there's been a misunderstanding. The bank flagged our transactions because we're traveling. The security officer who led me in raises an eyebrow. You know this man, ma'am? Yes, I reply calmly. He's my husband, and he emptied our joint savings account this morning without my knowledge or consent. Jake's face drains of color. That's not, I was just moving money around. For us. She's been unstable lately, he adds to the officer in a lower voice. Making accusations, seeing things that aren't there. End quote. He adds to the officials himself. I pull out my phone and open my banking app. Officer, I'd like to show you something. I turn the screen toward him. This is our joint savings account. Yesterday it had over $68,000. This morning at 4:47 a.m., it was emptied except for $42.16. The officer examines the screen, then looks at Jake. Sir, can you explain this transaction? It's my money too, Jake snaps, his composure cracking. I'm allowed to access our joint accounts. I continue, my voice steady. I'd also like to report that he's been making fraudulent transfers of $3,000 monthly to a Tyler Morrison for the past 8 months, and he's been maintaining a secret apartment in Portland that I knew nothing about. Jake's eyes widen. You can't prove any of that. I smile thinly. Actually, I can. My lawyer has all the documentation, including records from the private investigator I hired last week. Jake lunges forward suddenly, reaching for my phone. Give me that. The security officer steps between us immediately. Sir, sit down now. As if on cue, Jake's phone rings on the table. He grabs it, hitting the speaker button without checking the caller ID. Jake, where the hell are you? Tyler's voice fills the small room. You promised we'd leave together. You said once she found out, we'd go to Portland and start over in our apartment. You promised! Jake frantically tries to end the call, but the damage is done. The security officer's expression hardens. Sir, I'm going to need you to surrender your passport while we sort this out. You can't do that, Jake protests. I have a flight to catch. Not today you don't, the officer replies, gesturing to another security agent who's entered the room. We've received a fraud alert regarding your company credit cards as well. Jake's face contorts with rage as he turns to me. What did you do? I didn't do anything, I say truthfully, but apparently your company's financial department noticed some irregularities with your expense reports. Something about charging personal items and travel for Tyler Morrison to the corporate account. Jake slumps in his chair, the fight draining out of him. This will ruin my career, he whispers. Please, you have to drop the charges. We can work this out. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for him him, almost. The divorce papers were filed this morning, I tell him, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. Diane made sure they were the first ones processed when the courthouse opened. You'll be served officially when we get back to Portland. Jake's face crumples. You don't understand. I was going to tell you. I just needed time to figure things out. 8 months wasn't enough time? I ask, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. While I was sleeping in the car during a snowstorm last night, you had Melissa in our hotel room. How much more time did you need? The security officer clears his throat. Ma'am, would you like to press charges for the financial fraud? I look at Jake, really look at him and see a stranger. The man I married, the person I thought I knew better than anyone, doesn't exist. Maybe he never did. Yes, I say finally. I would. As I turn to leave, Jake calls after me, his voice breaking. Please don't do this. I'll lose everything. I pause at the door, not turning around. You already made that choice, Jake, 8 months ago. When I return to the main terminal, Melissa is waiting anxiously. What happened? They're holding him, I say simply, and we have a flight to catch. As we walk toward our gate, Melissa asks quietly, what happens now? Every one of this, and dreamy come and allem and tinning percent is, and some of that way did people make inter next him. And we giving the way, I take a deep breath, feeling strangely lighter than I have in months. Now we go to Portland. I have a house to reclaim, accounts to freeze, and a future to rebuild. For the first time since this nightmare began, I feel something close to hope. Not because anything about this situation is good, but because I finally have the truth. And the truth, painful as it is setting me free. The flight back to Portland feels like a strange dream. Melissa sits beside me, staring out the window as we descend through clouds toward the familiar landscape below. Neither of us has said much since leaving Colorado, both lost in our own thoughts about the men who betrayed us. What will you do now? She asks, as the plane touches down with a jolt. First, I need to see what's left of my home, I reply, already dreading what I might find. The Uber ride from the airport to my apartment is tense. I keep checking my phone for updates from Diane, who's been working nonstop since my early morning call. The divorce papers have been filed, the fraud documentation submitted, and the wheels of justice are turning faster than I ever expected. When we pull up to my building, I know immediately something is wrong. The curtains in our living room window are gone. Through the glass, I can see empty spaces where furniture used to be. He's taken everything, I whisper as I unlock the front door with shaking hands. Inside, the apartment is a shell of what it was 3 days ago. The couch is gone, along with the TV, the dining table, and most of the kitchen appliances. Our bedroom has been stripped of everything except the bed frame and mattress. Jake's closet stands empty, hangers scattered across the floor like abandoned skeletons. Melissa trails off, standing awkwardly in the doorway to the bedroom. Illegal. I finish for her, already dialing Diane. He can't just take everything during a pending divorce. Diane answers on the second ring. I was just about to call you. The judge has issued a temporary restraining order freezing all your joint assets. Jake won't be able to access any more funds. He's already cleared out half the apartment. I tell her, my voice catching. Everything of value is gone. Document everything, Diane instructs. Take photos of every room. Make a list of what's missing. This will only strengthen our case. As I'm hanging up, my phone rings again. The screen displays a non-caller, but I answer anyway, hoping it might be Jake coming to his senses. Instead, a deep voice asks, is this Mrs. Wilson? Yes, I reply cautiously. This is Richard Daniels, Jake's boss at Meridian Tech. I need to speak with you about some irregularities we've discovered. Thanks for watching. My heart pounds as I put the call on speaker so Melissa can hear. What kind of irregularities? Our financial audit has uncovered substantial misuse of company resources. Flights, hotel rooms, meals, and equipment purchases that were charged to the company but appear to be personal expenses, many involving a Tyler Morrison. I close my eyes, leaning against the wall for support. I see. I lest happened. We've terminated Jake's employment, effective immediately. His company, credit cards, phone, and laptop have been deactivated. I wanted to inform you directly since some of this may affect your household finances. Thank you for letting me know, I managed to say. After hanging up, Melissa and I stand in silence, surrounded by the empty spaces where my life with Jake used to be. He's lost everything, she says quietly. His job, his reputation. And for what? I ask, more to myself than to her. An affair that was built on lies from the beginning. My phone buzzes with a text from a number I don't recognize. This is Officer Reeves from Portland PD. We've located a storage unit registered to Jacob Wilson. You might want to see this. 2 hours later, I'm standing in front of an open storage unit filled with furniture. Our furniture along with boxes of electronics, kitchen appliances, and framed photos. The officer beside me takes notes as I identify each item. He was planning this for months, I tell Officer Reeves, pointing to a rental agreement dated 6 weeks ago. Stockpiling our belongings before emptying our accounts. We found something else, the officer says, leading me to a smaller unit 2 doors down. Inside are furnishings I've never seen before. Sleek, modern pieces that must have been for the secret apartment Jake and Tyler planned to share. The lease on the apartment was signed 3 months ago. Officer Reeves explains, showing me the paperwork. First and last month's rent paid in cash, utilities set up in both their names. I think about all those nights Jake claimed to be working late, all the weekends he said he had to go into the office. He wasn't building our future. He was dismantling it piece by piece, constructing a new life that didn't include me. By evening, Melissa has booked a flight back to Colorado to deal with her own broken relationship. We exchange numbers, promising to keep each other updated. I never thought I'd be grateful to meet my fiancé's affair partner, she says as we hug goodbye. But you've been more honest with me in 1 day than Tyler was in 8 months. After she leaves, I sit alone in my half-empty apartment, surrounded by the few possessions Jake didn't take. My phone rings with Diane's number. Good news, she says without preamble. The bank has frozen all remaining accounts pending the fraud investigation, and I've negotiated a preliminary settlement that gives you full ownership of the house and what's left of the savings. What about Jake? I ask. He's facing criminal charges for the company fraud. The evidence is overwhelming, and Tyler Morrison has been terminated from Meridian Tech as well for misuse of company resources. I should feel vindicated, but mostly I just feel tired. What happens now? Now you rebuild, Diane says gently, 1 day at a time. 6 months later, I stand in the empty living room of what was once our home, now sold to a young couple expecting their first child. The divorce was finalized faster than expected, with Jake agreeing to all terms to avoid a more public legal battle. I heard through mutual friends that he pleaded guilty to reduce charges of financial fraud to avoid trial, receiving 2 years of probation and a substantial fine. Tyler apparently moved back east to live with his parents, his engagement to Melissa long over. My phone buzzes with a text from my realtor. Closing documents for the new condo are ready. Congrats on your fresh start. As I take one last look around the empty house, I think about how quickly a life can unravel: 8 months of secret betrayal, 3 days of chaotic revelation, 6 months of painful rebuilding. The final divorce decree arrived yesterday in a plain manila envelope, officially ending my marriage to Jake Wilson. I didn't feel the grief I expected, just a quiet certainty that I was finally free. Outside, the moving truck waits to take my remaining possessions to my new condo across town. It's smaller than our house was, but it's mine alone, a space untainted by lies and betrayal. As I lock the front door for the last time, I realize I'm no longer angry. The rage that sustained me through those first terrible days has mellowed into something like wisdom. I know now that Jake's betrayal wasn't my failure, but his own, a reflection of his character, not my worth. I slide the house key under the mat for the new owners and walk toward my car without looking back. Ahead of me stretches a future I never planned for, but am somehow ready to embrace uncertain. Yes, but authentically mine.